Today, I'm going to be giving you a wrap up of all the books that I read in July. I found this handy little minute timer from the game Telestrations. I'm going to put the timer where you can see it, and we'll see if I can give you a compelling review for each book in under a minute. I don't know if this is going to work, but it will be fun. Before I start the timer, I will give you the title, the author's name, and the genre, and then I will flip it over and give you the synopsis and my thoughts in 60 seconds or less. Book number 1 is Under a Dancing Star by Laura Wood. This is a historical fiction / romance. Okay, so 17-year-old Bee really loves science, and her parents have a crumbling estate. It's very damp and drafty, and they know that they have to make a lot of repairs to make it functional, and Bee kind of hates it there, but they want her to meet an eligible bachelor and settle down in the hopes that that will get them the money they need to repair the estate. So they have someone over for dinner, it doesn't go well, and they make plans with Bee's uncle for her to go to Italy and spend the summer getting rid of some of her wildness. She loves to run through the pond, she likes to study insects. She would much rather be doing that than courting eligible bachelors. But when she arrives in Italy at her uncle's villa, it's an artist retreat, and the first person that she meets is this painter named Ben, and he's very cute, and they banter, and they hate love. And okay, my time is up. This was probably 2.75 stars for me. Haven't done that first one. I think what I'm gonna do is one flip for the synopsis, one flip for my thoughts on the book, because I don't wanna leave you with just what the plot is about, because you could read that online. All right. So this is a historical fiction, and it has some elements of history. It has some elements of what's happening in history at the time. Oh my gosh, this is hard because I'm used to resetting for my editing. It has some elements of what's happening in the world at the time, but they don't feel like they get enough space in the book. I feel like this book could have been longer and maybe it could have achieved those things, but there's the rise of communist thinking, there is anti-Semitism that is mentioned, but because it's only applicable to tertiary characters, we don't really get as much personal depth with those things, and except for like one moment in the book that isn't pivotal to our main characters that comes up. So yeah, but overall I like the ending and I like the romance. It was just fast. Whew, whew. Much like that. The next book is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This is a thriller, maybe historical thriller because of the setting, and here we go. All right, so this is set, the inciting incident of this event is set in 1990s, and the main character is returning to his parents' home, and he has been troubled by the events of what happened summers earlier when his best friend was abducted from their tent. They were camping in the backyard. They live in a small cul-de-sac where the neighbors all know one another, and tensions are high after this incident because no one really knows what happened, who took him, and so he's returned to his childhood home and he wants to solve the mystery of what happened that summer. So he interacts with the neighbors that he knew when he was a kid, who are now adults and have new problems of their own, and he is kind of dealing with the trauma of it all through the process of trying to figure out what happened. Okay. This was my first Riley Sager, and I have to say I liked it, although I've heard people say that this is pretty unique for him. It was very much a popcorn fiction, and it kind of reminded me of Stranger Things because the nostalgic references to like VCR tapes in their white clamshell cases and the flavor ice popsicles during the summer, those types of things were very nostalgic, but the book itself was not as chilling as I expected it to be. I thought that it was going to be kind of like really like, don't walk out of your bedroom at night because you don't want to walk around the house at night because you're scared that something is going to grab your foot, that type of scary, and this wasn't really that. There were some moments that felt paranormal or surreal, but overall it was pretty light and I enjoyed it. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I've been recommended Lock Every Door as well as The House Across the Lake, so let me know which one of those two you think I should pick up next. Next book is The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. This was my book of the month choice for July. It kind of toes the line between fantasy and magical realism in my opinion. What if you traveled through a door to another world and you lived in that world for a few years with your best friend, and then something called you back to present day, to the real world, and you returned, but your best friend had no memory of what had taken place in that fantasy world? How would that make you feel? That's kind of the premise of this book, and these two best friends are found after going missing in the woods, and they have grown, things have happened, but only one of them has a memory of what has taken place. And then there's another character who has a missing sibling who also disappeared around the same time, and she doesn't know what happened to her. I'm distracted by the sand. Okay, that's all the synopsis that you get. I hope that's enough, but all right, here are my thoughts. Okay. So what I just explained to you is why this book is being compared to Narnia, because the children traveled to a different world and they basically became royalty in that world. They had roles and expectations that were completely different from the real world, and it was magical. But they returned to the real world, and we're seeing on the other side of that what was the impact. And we find out in reverse what took place in that fantasy world, as well as what had been going on in the real world when these children disappeared, and the different traumas that they are processing through individually. It has some good themes of friendship, and the magic is good. This is really brutal. I gave this one 3 3/4. It did feel like Meg is really working on how much time she gives different elements of her story, and that was something that I was a little jarred by in The Wishing Game, because the plot and the character growth is all very, very quick, and it did actually feel like we spent more time with the characters and there was time on both sides of the door. Next is The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. This is listed as a mystery / thriller. So this is kind of like if someone who was almost like a goop personality started a luxury resort, and the people that are living on the land around it really don't want it to be there, and the people that are working at the resort have dubious experience with the owner in the past, and we are shifting from perspective to perspective, finding out like why she wants to open this, like what's going on in her head, as well as what the other characters are doing. Some of them are out for revenge, some of them want closure, and some of them just want to use their time at the resort to get ahead in life. So it's very bizarre. It is very fast-paced. Again, lots of shifting perspectives, and it was a fast read. Okay, kind of gave you my synopsis and my thoughts that time. Maybe I'm getting faster. Am I getting better at this? I don't know. All right, this one was enjoyable. It is quite dark though, and I think perhaps darker than The Paris Apartment, which was the last Lucy Foley that I read. And the other one that they read was The Guest List. I've not read The Hunting Party, so maybe that's typical for her, I'm not sure. It was quite dark, and there were some character perspectives that I just really didn't want to read from. Well, particularly the like main antagonist, I would say, or like the person who is starting all of this, and I don't know, I didn't really like her, but you weren't supposed to like her, so that's probably okay. I don't have much else to say about this, honestly. It was, I don't know, it's worth recommending as a thriller, but also very dark. Okay. Next was a book that you all voted on, and that is The Three-Body Problem by Zhixin Liu. This book is science fiction. This book starts out in communist China when Mao is coming to power, and when Mao is coming to power, and it starts with like a scene of persecution, and one of our characters is witnessing the brutal murder of her father. And then we hop to present day, where strange things are happening to these scientists around the world. Many of them are dying or they're quitting their work, and we're not really sure why they're doing that until we get the perspective of one scientist who sees these warning messages. He sees numbers in front of his vision, and that's, oh my goodness, that's all you get. I enjoyed this book. I really didn't start getting invested in it until that character was starting to see the numbers and trying to figure out what's going on. The language is very scientific and detailed. There's a lot of things in there that I'm sure are quite accurate, but I wouldn't know because it's so far over my head. At the same time, I did finish the book, and I do want to read the other two books because I'm interested in the messaging. I want to see if it goes where I think it goes. The idea is that encounters with aliens would not ever be a positive thing because they would just want to conquer Earth no matter what, and just because we have problems doesn't mean they'll help us solve them. I gave The Three-Body Problem 3 stars. I have the second book out from the library, and I'm so excited to read it. Next book is The Rom-Comers by Catherine Center. This is a romance. Okay, main character Emma has spent years looking after her ailing father, and her sister has been going to school, building relationships, having a life basically. So she's excited for the trade-off, but she's also kind of nervous. She's a little bit of a type A. She wants to make sure that her father is adequately cared for by her younger sister. And so when she gets the opportunity to go to LA and work on writing a script for one of her favorite screenwriters, she takes the opportunity, and when she arrives, she finds out that it wasn't communicated to him that someone was going to be going and helping him with that process. His script is real bad. It needs a lot of help, and so she's sent there to help him do a better job because he's writing a romantic comedy. I really like the premise of this one because our main character is kind of infatuated with the screenwriter. She loves everything that he's done, but he is kind of failing at his newest project, which is writing a romantic comedy. And so she's sent in to do what she does best because she's watched all of the romantic movies and she knows what it means to have a meet cute, to have banter, to have a romantic relationship develop. And so that kind of unfolds between the two of them as well in the romance aspect of this book. And there's a lot of humor. There is a lot of heavier topics as well, like meaningful topics related to her concern over her dad versus her wanting to have a life of her own as well. And I think that's what makes me love Abby Jimenez, and I think that Catherine Center does it well as well. I gave The Rom-Comers 4 stars. Let me know if you decide to try this. I'd love to see how quickly you can review books because this was not easy for some of them. If you read any of the books that I read in July, let me know what your thoughts are, and if you have any recommendations for a Riley Sager book I should read next, or anything in general that you think is a good tie-in or a next step for someone who loved one of the books, please drop it below so they can see it and find a good rec as well. I will see you in another video soon. Thank you.